Hi, my name is Aubrey Curran. I'm a current graduate student at Loma Nazarene University, and today we're going to be discussing my master's thesis proposal. So the area of focus is with high school students. I'm currently an educational specialist for the Charter School of San Diego, and I specifically work with the special education department and students who have IEPs. An IEP is an independent education program where our students have a range of disabilities from ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, emotional disturbance, and even autism. All of my students are high functioning, so they're in the general education program at our school. However, I pull them for a certain amount of time a week and help them with their IEP goals. So what we're going to be doing for this proposal is focusing on specifically their math class. So I chose math because last year I was really interested to see how technology-oriented our math curriculum is across the state in traditional school and in our charter school as well. So that caught my interest. So I will be working with my IEP kiddos and specifically helping them with their math classes. So for their math classes, they are going to be working on classes Algebra 1 through Calculus. So at this school that I work at, our students work at their own pace. So my students won't all be in the same math class. They're also in different grades. So they are in grades 9 through 12, and they are working on classes Algebra 1 through Calculus 1. So I could have a 10th grader who's working on Algebra 2 Semester B, but I could also have a 9th grader who's working on Integrated Math 1 Semester 1. So it will be a different range, but I'm specifically looking at math for their proposal. Significance of the study. So the reason that I'm conducting this study is to see why my students are performing the way that they are in math. Something important to note is that I teach at an independent charter school where we only have one form of curriculum and it's all online. So what that means is every student is given a login password to our Edgenuity program and they're essentially just set free to work on it. 80% of the time they're supposed to be working at home, and the other 20% they're supposed to be coming into our resource center to be checked on, make sure they're keeping up with their classes, receive special education services if they have an IEP, and work on those sorts of things. So the whole entire significance is to see if this method of curriculum is working for these students. How I'm going to be doing that is measuring their academic growth in math specifically. So we have on our online education module, we have a type of form that shows you how much time they're spending online, and that's what we're going to use for my research question. Specifically, my research question is, what is the effect of online module participation time on students with disabilities' academic growth in math? How I'm going to measure academic growth specifically is by comparing their numerical grades. So not letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever it is. We're going to be just looking at numerical grades. So for example, if a student is at a 79, I'll be comparing it to another student who's at an 81. So in my literature review, there were a few different studies that kind of helped me form a basis for my proposal. The first one was from a study in 2015 that connected the gaps between students with disabilities and students without disabilities, academic growth in math. So this one related most closely to my personal study and kind of helped me form my direction for my study. It showed that both students with disabilities and students without, did show increase over the school year in math. However, students with disabilities did not show a significant enough gap growth as students without disabilities. So the second study in 2018 was trying to determine the effective study time outside of school. It showed that students who did spend more time outside of school studying and completing homework received higher grades. And this closely relates to my study and my school specifically because on my online module side that I can see as a teacher, it shows me how much time the students are going home and spending working on their schoolwork outside of school as well. The last study was from 2015, and it was trying to see how students learn through technology. So this one also closely relates to our school because we are technology only. There are no instructions. We do have teachers, but we have essentially just guided help time. So the students come in, it's an independent program. They come in, if they have questions, we support them. If they are stuck on a specific lesson for math or history, whatever it may be, we teach them and we do use lectures that way, but there is no seat time. So if the students come in and don't need support, they come in, they check in, we make sure they're on track, and they can leave. So this one down below is a result of technology. It shows that there was not a huge significance in students learning better with technology. So this is my first example of what my side of the Edgenuity looks like and how I will be recording all of my data. So this is called Edgenuity. This is a screenshot. It shows you the day that the student was working, the time that they logged in, the class that they're working on. So for example, the student was working on government. And right here is a very important time. It's called idle time. If a student has any idle time, so a student had 24 minutes, that means that they had something else, another tab open, and they were actively engaged on that. So a lot of the time that may be YouTube or whatever that they're working on, but it's not the actual curriculum. So this will tell me how much time they actually are working. So if they're logged in for 4 hours, but academically they've only spent 2 hours on it, that's only 2 hours of instructional engagement. Over here, it tells me how many activities the students have completed for the day. We ask all students to complete between 5 to 7 to stay on track. So this type of study is going to be observationally based in the first 4 weeks. So I am just pulling this up for every student every day and recording what their grade was they started at. So for example, a 79, the math class that they're in, so integrated A, algebra 1, statistics, whatever it may be. And just going off of this every day and recording the engagement time, the actual online module participation time. So towards the end of my study, I will have an intervention in weeks 5 and 6, and that will look like IEP time, so our normal engagement of SAI. When the students come in for that 20% of our contract, essentially, at our school, I pull them for 1 hour a week, and we will be working on math. The reason I'm doing this intervention is to see if my support for an extra hour a week in their math class will help boost their numerical grade even more. So this is an example of the chart I'm going to be collecting my data on. On the far side, I have the students' names, and for ethical considerations, I'm going to be collecting based on their names during the actual study, but when I transfer all of my data into my actual thesis, I'm going to be using just their student IDs so that all their privacy is protected. The second row talks about their disability and says what they have. Why they qualify for an IEP, essentially. The class that they're working on, so integrated A, statistics, geometry, algebra. And then this is the online module participation time. So it may say 15 hours, 6 hours, 31 hours. The goal is to always be at 30 hours for the week. So it's 6 hours of school time a day times 5 school days. Their benchmark is always 30. If they do more, that's awesome. If they do less, we usually keep track of that and call the parents and make sure that their students are working at home just as much as well. Right here is the column for the numerical grade. So for example, week 1, this student is at a 79.3. Now this same time next week, I'm going to see where they are currently and see if they have increased. This is where I will be recording those next grades. So they're at a 79.3 now. Maybe this time next week it'll be at an 80. So the whole entire purpose of this is to see that their academic growth is increasing, hopefully over time. If it's not, that's going to lead to the significance to see why not. Are these students that don't learn as well over the use of technology? Would they be better with a paper-based course? Would they be better with tactile learning? Things like that. And then the purpose of the intervention towards the end is going to see if my support will help increase their grades towards the end. Thank you so much for your consideration. I hope you enjoyed the proposal presentation.